Hey everyone, my name is Erik and I play bass. Last week I asked you guys to help me list the top 5 pedals that every bass player needs on his or her pedal board, and boy did you guys come through with that. Before we get started with the list, I would like to address 2 things. Number 1, this video is not being sponsored by or paid for by any of the brands featured in this video. Yes, quite a few of the pedals were sent to me a while back to demo and whatnot, but none of the brands have reached out to me and asked me to do this video. This video is entirely my own doing. Number 2, if you're one of those people who go, I only need my bass, my cable, and my amp, well, then this video is clearly not for you. Go and watch something else and don't get all butthurt in the comments, okay? So let's get on with the list. So the first pedal that pretty much everyone seemed to agree upon was, of course, the tuner. Buying a tuner is not the most fun thing to do, but it is one of the utmost necessities to have on your pedal board. Myself, I'm using the Korg Pitch Black tuner in this video. I've used that tuner for quite a few years now, and it has been rock solid on every gig that I've brought it out for. A good tuner allows you to, yes, tune your bass and mute your signal so that the audience doesn't get to enjoy your turning off the tuning pegs. Of course, there are clip-on tuners that you put on the headstock, but hey, where's the fun in buying a small clip-on tuner when you can buy a nice and sturdy pedal to have on the floor and look cool with? So there is that. When you're shopping for a tuner for your pedal board, there are a variety of pedals available, everything from Boss to Korg to TC Electronic. My advice to you is to find a pedal that you can, 1, read from a bit of a distance. Remember, you're gonna keep it on the floor. And number 2, make sure that you can actually make out what note it says, both in pitch black darkness as well as in bright sunlight, because you never know when you're doing an outdoor show and you don't want to be the guy who has tuned his G string to a C because you couldn't make out what your tuner said. So make sure that you can actually read what the tuner says. If I'm not mistaken, the TC Electronic Polytune actually has an adaptive screen that adapts to the amount of light available in the venue that you're playing. So if you're playing outdoors, it actually adapts so that you can actually read what it says regardless of the sunshine and whatnot. The second pedal that every bass player should have on his or her pedal board is, of course, a compressor or a limiter. A compressor does exactly what the name suggests. It compresses your signal so that the quiet notes get a wee bit louder and the loud notes get a wee bit quieter. Now, why on earth would you want that? Well, when you're sitting by yourself in a quiet room playing unplugged, you have about this much dynamic range available on your bass guitar. When you're plugging it into a few hundred watts of amplification, you suddenly get this much dynamic range. So the loud notes get way louder and the quiet notes can be way quieter, so to speak. A compressor helps by bringing the quiet notes up a wee bit and the loud notes down a wee bit, making your tone a bit more consistent. Very easily explained, a limiter limits the loud notes from going any further, whereas a compressor also pushes up the quiet notes a wee bit. That is, of course, an oversimplification of the 2 various units, but it gives you an idea why I have 2 pedals actually on this pedal board. On this pedal board, I've got the Darkless Hyperluminal compressor, and I've got the Suncoast LM1 dynamic limiter. On this pedal board, I've placed the Darkless Hyperluminal compressor straight after the tuner. This allows especially the distorted tone to be very much consistent and even in terms of output. If I were to place the compressor after the distortion pedal, I would on the other hand, get access to the dynamic range of the distortion pedal, which means that if I were to play softer, the signal would clean up a bit, and if I were to dig in a bit more, the signal would of course distort more. However, having the compressor after the distortion would also mean that that signal itself would be more consistent when going to the next unit, so to speak. It all makes sense if you try it out yourself. I also have the Suncoast LM1 dynamic limiter, which is useful to keep the signal from going way too hot and causing distortion later on in the signal chain. The third pedal that every bass player needs on his or her pedalboard is, of course, an octaver. Octavers come in various shapes and forms and sizes and octaves available. There are pedals with 2 octaves up and 2 octaves down and 1 octave up and 2 octaves down and God knows what. For this pedalboard, I've gone with the EBS Octabass in its latest iteration. This octave pedal is pretty straightforward. You have 3 controls, 2 volumes, one for your normal or clean tone and one for your affected or octave down tone, and a tone knob, as well as a range switch which allows you to go from high to low. A good octave pedal is great if you want to create some synthy bass tones for, say, a top 40 gig, and you don't want to drag out your MIDI controller and your laptop and whatnot and go like this and play the bass line like that awkwardly. This way you can play your bass and get away with it and sound pretty much like a keyboard if you play your cards well. A good octave pedal is also great when you're playing a rockin' tune with a cool riff, and at the end of the song you play the riff an octave up and you kick on your octave pedal and you still have that subharmonic content going while you fill out the void that is created with only having one guitar player in your band. At least that is what I would do if I were you. The fourth pedal that every bass player needs on his or her pedalboard is, of course, a distortion pedal. For this pedalboard, I've got the Ultimate Billy Sheehan Signature Drive from EBS. The reason why I went with this pedal for this pedalboard is because it has quite a bit of gain available to it. Because you want a distortion pedal that can go from a pretty much clean tone that just breaks up when you hit the bass a bit harder to, almost a fuzzy type madness. Because combined with an octave pedal, you can create some synthy and cool bass lines if you kick them both on at the same time. A distortion pedal is great for one, cutting through the mix. If you have, like, say, some heavily distorted guitars and you're competing with that and you can't hear yourself, well, kicking on a distortion pedal will actually help you cut through the mix. And it also provides some additional harmonic content and information to your bass tone. So kicking on a distortion pedal is actually a great way to fill out the void created by the lack of, say, a keyboard player or a second guitar player. When you're looking for a distortion pedal for your bass, make sure that it either has a blend control, like, say, the Darkless pedals, or separate mix controls for the clean and the distorted tone. Because when you kick on a distortion on your bass tone, you pretty much mess up the beautiful sine wave that is your low-end information. Having a clean volume control or a blend knob will allow you to keep that clean and beautiful fundament that you need for your band, as well as adding that beautiful harmonic content and cut that you want from a distortion pedal. The fifth pedal that every bass player needs on his or her pedalboard is, of course, a chorus pedal. A chorus pedal is great for making your harmonics pop, and your chords for that matter, if you're into that. And of course, a chorus pedal is essential if you're going for that nice 80s bass tone in songs like Don't Stop Believing by Journey, Love Will Tear Us Apart by Joy Division, and of course, any Guns N' Roses song from the Appetite for Destruction album. A chorus pedal is also great if you're doing some 3-piece blues stuff and you want to emulate a B3 organ. You can actually kick on the chorus pedal and play some reduced chord voicings that sounds so sweet on bass, much in the style of the great Roscoe Beck. Check that out if you haven't. It's pretty cool, and you might learn something from checking it out. So there you have it, those are the 5 pedals that every bass player needs on his or her pedal board. In this video, all of the pedals have gone into the Darkless Atom and then into the Darkless Element, straight into Logic. There is no post-processing going on whatsoever. All of this is being powered by the Chuck's DC7, and the pedal board itself is a Pedal Train Classic Junior. If you strongly disagree with the list that I just presented to you, make sure to leave a comment down below and tell me what I got wrong. And if you liked this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit that notification bell, and leave a comment down below and tell me what you enjoyed about this list of mine. So with all this being said and done, my name is Erik and I play bass, and I'll see you guys and gals and cats and dogs in the next video. Until next time, take care. Bye.
But hey, I'm in the band.